So hello everybody. Today we are going to be responding to somebody. I've wanted to do videos like this for a very long time. One of the main areas that I follow on YouTube are the skeptic channels, guys like Logic or Bearing, Sargon of Akkad, etc. I kind of like that kind of, would be the best way to put it, open discussion where people can respond to each other's videos and criticise each other's ideas in an effort not to pull someone else down, but in order to learn, because that's what this is all about. Education obviously very important to me, academia very important to me, and that doesn't just mean about learning from books. It means learning from people, it means from discussions, it means from talking to people. Anyway, so today's video will be responding to a young chap by the name of Nathan Robert McCleary on Facebook, who goes by the name, well, he has two YouTube channels, 3443 and Original Backing Tracks for All Musicians. I dealt with Nathan the other day on one of my videos where he was a bit upset that his channel wasn't getting the views that he wanted it to when he held all the secrets to improvisation. I checked his stuff out and gave him some feedback, and eventually he turned quite nasty, but we'll get onto his playing shortly. But finally somebody has done an actual response video to me, and it is Nathan himself. So we're going to address some of the things he said, we're going to look at some of the ideas that he said. I'm going to play his video now and we're going to stop it and talk through it. So here's Nathan's video. Let's see what we think, shall we?
Morning. So let's have some fun. And I want to have a little fun with what I've been doing the last couple days. And that's fucking with the dirty little secrets of music. And especially
Dirty little secrets of music. He seems to have some insider knowledge. We'll get to that.
guitar players. And I know most people on my channel aren't guitar players, or fucking maybe you are, or you play some instrument or whatever. In the guitar community and how people are taught how to play lead guitar is to play one scale over an entire chord progression.
Okay, so let's address that idea, shall we? Guitar players are taught to play one scale over an entire chord progression. Okay, well, here's a little chord progression for you. I really enjoy playing over this one. This would be like a C major 7. To that's like a B flat 9 with a sharp 11 in there. Those chords are non-diatonic. You will not find one scale that fits over both of them. Realistically, you're going to want to play like a C major over the C, and when you get to the B, you kind of need like a B flat Lydian, Lydian dominant, sorry. Back to your C. You can't play one scale over the entire chord progression. Obviously there's a degree of truth to that when you're talking about playing over metal and rock and things like that, but you shouldn't really construct straw man arguments and suggest that that's what I teach, because that's definitely not what I teach. I teach about playing off each individual chord, solid intervallic knowledge, mostly coming out of guys like Wayne Krantz and Carver Hayen is probably my area of inspiration for that style of thought when improvising. But in the grand scheme of things, this idea that you can play one scale over the entire chord progression is a bit ridiculous, but we'll get onto the hilarity of that claim shortly.
Which that actually works if you construct the chord progression in minor, or if you play over blues, and that's why most people play blues, because they can take their one little fucking scale and play some really uninspired shit.
Ooh, this is where things get a little bit contentious. Okay, so if you construct a chord progression in minor, you can play one scale over it. Well, that's not strictly true, is it? If you construct a chord progression where every single chord in the chord progression comes from one key, then you can play one scale over it. In the intro, you saw me improvising over a chord progression which our friend Nathan is particularly fond of on his channel. I just laid down a loop, and it's like an E major 7 to a C sharp minor 7. I'm playing C sharp minor 11, an A major 7. I've put a sharp 11 in mine, and a B 7. I've played a B 13. Now, when you play that, all of those chords are diatonic to the key of E major. So when I hit play on my loop, I can play one scale over this entire thing. It's not a chord progression constructed in minor, but I can absolutely play just the E major scale over it. Now, that's personally not how I improvise, because when you improvise like that, to me it's a little bit homogenous. You've just got generic stuff being played over everything. As an example, over the E chord, you know, the E sounds great, the D sharp, the 7th of the chord is going to sound great, you've got a G sharp, the 3rd, that's going to sound great, but when the chord changes to the C sharp minor 11, those same notes don't have the same impact anymore. When you play the D sharp, for example, you're playing the 9th. Not that that's a bad note, but it has a different effect on the ear. So whereas on the E, I might play a line that sounds like this, where I'm really emphasizing that D sharp, really hitting that D sharp. Over the C sharp minor, that note is going to not sound nearly as good as the two around it, because you've got the E, which is the 3rd of the chord, and the C sharp, which is the root of the chord. So this kind of one scale over anything approach is really, I'm not going to say it's wrong, because there are guys that absolutely play like that. It's just not an approach that I'm particularly fond of. The next point that he's made there is the real point of contention. The blues isn't a chord progression, and that you can just play one scale over it. That I find very interesting, because if we take a standard blues, just a 1-4-5 blues, you've got an A7, a D7, and an E7. Now, each of those 3 chords are in different keys. So if you want to play over it correctly, that would suggest that you can't play one scale over it. Now, of course, I'm going to concede the fact that there are some players that will play one scale over it. They'll play over a blues, and they get by. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do that. If we're playing over a blues in A, why not play A mixolydian and then D mixolydian for the D? Back to your A mixolydian. And then when you move to your E, again you've got E mixolydian to your D to your A mixolydian. Now that doesn't take into account all of the other options that you have, of course. I'm just saying A mixolydian. Over a blues, you've got 3 dominant chords, just a basic blues, of course. I'm going to play a combination of A mixolydian, A minor, pentatonic, the blues scale. I'm probably going to play some superlocrian when I move to the D. I might play some half-whole diminished. Again, moving to the D. There are lots of options. I play Lydian dominant, I like that. So there's not one scale. You can't just play one scale over a blues. And obviously that's just talking about a blues where you have 3 chords in it. But if we play a blues where we have, you know, you're throwing 2 5s in there and a 1-6-2-5 turnaround, you've got, you know, something like to the D, the A, and then you could put your 2/5 in. You're on your 4 chord, put your diminished chord in there, walking down to the 6. You know, one scale is going to fit over this. You're not going to get one scale that fits over all of that, and that's obviously the difference between an Eric Clapton soloist and a Pat Martino. You know, those two guys are very different. Anyway, let's continue on with the video.
To have real creativity and real improvisation, you actually have to change with the chords. Now,
another point of contention there. He likes absolutes. He loves dealing in absolutes. Have to. He says you have to. What do you mean you have to? You don't have to do anything. He talks about music theory and being pure and it being, you know, how music is formed and the correct way to play music. Music theory comes after the fact. Cavemen would sit around a fire and bang things and make noises to enjoy themselves. It's a collective social thing, music, a beautiful thing. And that doesn't mean that they think about it first. Theory came later. Now, I'm not saying that theory is irrelevant. Theory is important in modern education, obviously. But music has... there's no haves. There's nothing you have to do. You don't have to play on every chord. As I say, like when I play Every Blues, I like to throw in the chord changes and play the chord changes. But that doesn't mean that from time to time I don't like to just play like Stevie Ray Vaughan and just hit good pentatonic stuff. What's important when it comes to improvising, and again this is opinion, but pretty objective opinion, is that you can play whatever you hear. So if you hear a phrase in your mind, you go, oh, that would sound cool, you can play it. You don't have to be able to analyse it, you don't have to understand where that phrase has come from to know that it sounds good. I like the way this sounds, therefore I play it. Simple as that. After the fact, somebody might go to you, oh, well, strictly speaking, you can't actually play that because you've played the flat 6 over a dominant 7 chord, and Mixolydian flat 6 really probably isn't the best course of action on this particular chord at this particular time. You turn around to that person, you go, oh, okay, well, I mean, did you like the lick? Did it sound good? And they'll go, well, yes, I mean the lick, it sounded good in itself, but it was just so wrong and incorrect, and I'm afraid I just can't listen to music if it's not correct. Idiotic, like, really, what a fucking moron. Anyway.
For me to say this to somebody that doesn't know music at all, it's kind of like, well, of course, it'll actually make more sense to you than it will be to people that have played guitar for a long time, because this is one of those things where we like to hide in our lies and we get ignorant and we blind ourselves with the ignorance and all that shit, and then you could just show somebody that doesn't even play and they go, yeah, that's actually common fucking sense. But what I've been having fun with is coming up to these kind of guys like this dude, Levi Clay, and
now we have to do the arrogant thing. Oh, let's pretend I don't like doing it. There's the hesitation in his voice coming up to these guys like this guy, Levi Clay. Do your research, pal. I'm not just a guy on the internet. The internet is a tiny fucking part of what I do. A tiny fucking part of what I do. You know, I make, relatively speaking, shit all money on YouTube and the internet. Absolutely fucking none. I do it out of the love of it. I make a living working professionally in education for print magazines, creating instructional DVDs that are sold throughout the world. You know, I'm not just a guy on YouTube that doesn't really know what he's talking about. I've got a long studied history of education, studying myself, going right the way through degree, you know, higher education in music. I'm not some kid. I'm just not some kid that's just trying to make it up as he goes along. I respect my peers. I mean, this guy, the problem with this guy is he's shitting on everyone. Like, everyone is shit. Everyone is fake. Nobody knows what they're doing. I'm the only one that has all of the answers. I mean, we'll look at some of the comments in a second. I just find it so offensive. So offensive. Like, you want to shit on me, that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Not a problem. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't offend me. You keep going, pal. Absolutely fine. But don't shit on the established masters of this craft. You can't shit on Mick Goodrick. You can't shit on Sean Baxter. You can't shit on William Leavitt. You can't shit on Tim Miller. You can't shit on any of these guys that have long histories of education. Studied education. We're talking Berkeley graduates or Berkeley professors. We're talking course writers, influential writers that have written books, magazines, influence hundreds of thousands of people. You can't just turn around and just assume you know better than them. In fact, let's jump into one of his videos and let's see him improvising. So, look, after we get everything we want out of the E pattern, let's move to the D pattern and get a feel and the flavour for it. I mean, already it seems a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? The channel, original backing tracks for all musicians. All musicians. Where's the all? When you're playing saxophone, what the fuck is the E pattern? What is the D pattern? Talk about true improvisation, then you talk about patterns? What? How does this apply if I don't play the guitar in standard tuning? How does this apply if I'm Derek Trucks and I play the slide guitar in open E? Or Sonny Landreth? Like, how does this translate? Anyway, let's take a look at the playing, shall we?
The D pattern is favored by bands like Counting Crows.
Is it I?
Fretboard, let's pull it all together.
I was going to stop it there, but I mean, how can I resist? Can't bear anymore. It's incredible when you think about it. Like, what you're hearing there is the same, don't get me wrong, the same things that I'd walk through with every single one of my students. Basic arpeggio knowledge. The problem here is this guy has a basic understanding of arpeggios and he's exploring them, and you can hear that. Like, the improvisations, they sound nervous. He doesn't sound comfortable. Because he doesn't really know which notes are going to sound good and which ones aren't. Often he'll hit the root, then hit the major 7 and sit on it and go, and then change again. There's no confidence in what he's doing. Now that's obviously going to develop with time, but pushing that as mastery, like, come on. Any clown can do that. Look, here's your chord progression: E, C sharp minor, A, B. Remember, all diatonic anyway, so you can just play one scale over the entire thing. Not that that's how I do things. E major. There's your E major. Here's your C sharp minor. Here's your A. Here's your B. There's your E. Here's your C sharp. Here's your A. Here's your B. Back to your E. Like, anyone can do that. Anybody can do that. And I've just done that there, and it sounded considerably more musical than what this clown's done. So ridiculous in itself. Now, guys, this video is getting a bit long. So I'm not gonna cut it short. I'm just gonna jump into the real nitty gritty of what I've said, where I've accused this guy of being a racist and a homophobe, and just, I mean, it's trolling in the truest sense of the word. If I go over to my Scotty Anderson Impossible chord video over here, I mean, it's actually, I mean, he started commenting on my latest video, and I don't really agree with censorship on YouTube. If somebody has something they want to express on one of my videos, that's fine. I don't really have an issue with that. But I actually had to break my own rule when it comes to that, because I put up a new video, and not only was he shitposting comments on it with, you know, racist and homophobic language, he was responding to everybody's comments. And again, just being racist and homophobic. Like, if your goal here is to get more views on your channel, probably be less of an arsehole. Just a suggestion. I mean, comments like that, challenges you stupid. I don't mind being called stupid. That's absolutely fine. The problem is when you're looking through these comments, and he's calling me things like "you dirty non-Jew." in slang form, of course, which I just find so disgusting. He loves to drop the word faggot as well. He calls Tom Hess a faggot and David Wallerman a faggot. I can't really understand it. I don't know why this is acceptable. Let's go down to the. Here we go. Look. I live in a $3 million house on the beach, dumb fuck, and have money to burn. I don't need to work, dummy, and I don't need to impress a faggot like you. I gave you a challenge, and you are a failure, plain and simple. You failed the challenge, and now you want to turn it into money. Well, I also have you beat, as I've never worked a day in my life and will never have to. Like, what is this? Is it... Does this guy have some sort of mental health problems? I toured around the world 4 times playing death metal, and now I play real music. I'll refer you to that video. Play real music, since I learned how to play real melodies. So you try to force me into your metal box. Ha, retarded. And here's the racial slur, meaning dirty non-Jew. Our kind are so stupid. How about you take the challenge and play over a real backing track with chord changes that people of the world can enjoy? You won't do it because you can't. You just avoid it. Well, you know, you saw at the start of this video me playing over your diatonic chord changes. And obviously, like, there are a million ways that you can do that, but that was just, I hit go on the looper and played. And I got criticised for not playing over an actual backing track, for playing over chords, for playing over, you know, a loop. I love doing videos, and I love that they're quick, and I love that I can just hit go on my looper and lay down chords and play. But apparently, me playing, you know, over a blues and playing. Playing stuff like that, that's just me playing one scale. That's me cheating. So, you know, in closing, guys, of course you can check this stuff out, but I wouldn't recommend it. Education, like I say, very important. Learning is very important. Knowledge is important. But destroying hatred, if you have a problem with me, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But it's 2016, guys. Like, we shouldn't really need to use words like faggot to insult people. We shouldn't need to suggest that people are lesser than you because they don't practice the same religion as you. You know, we shouldn't need to throw insults like this in 2016. This is not how discussion happens. This is not how ideas are exchanged on the open market of thoughts and ideas. It's about sharing information. If I criticise you, that's fine. Respond to my criticism. The ad hominems are unnecessary, totally unnecessary. Especially when you read through the comments, my criticism was, hey man, cool, yeah, good stuff. If I was going to throw you one bit of advice, I would suggest that maybe you don't do your instructional videos on an Ibanez gem. because it doesn't have fret markers on it like traditional fret markers. So for what you're talking about, it might be easier for people to be able to see dot markers on your neck so they can reference where you actually are on the neck. That was a bit of constructive criticism, and I had to deal with racism and homophobia as a retort, which the mind fucking boggles, doesn't it, really, guys? So thanks very much for tuning into this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please do like, share and subscribe, and make sure clowns like this are held accountable for this bullshit. You want to troll on the internet, absolutely fine, but at least come from a position of knowledge, not from a position of shouting, assuming you know best, when, you know, demonstrably you don't. You fucking moron. Peace out, guys.